Man, do you hear that? Look at here. They're coming. They're coming. We're going to have a party.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Old Boy Podcast, and I am super stoked for this guest today, a guy that you've seen him on UFC. We're going to talk a little bit of fighting, but what I really love is what this guy stands for, which is just just a great American farmer, just all about family, taking care of folks. Bryce Mitchell, man, happy to have you on, brother.
I'm happy to be on, brother. I'm very excited. This is an awesome opportunity. And if you see me looking over here to the left a bunch, there's actually what appears to be a crane device. It's got 4 tires on it. Looks to be about, 100,000 pounds. This is broke down in the road right now. They got a semi-truck pulling it down the road. Me and the dog are just staring at it because right in front of my house, this thing broke down.
Well, by God, hey, you never know what you're going to run into in Searcy, Arkansas, do you know?
No, sir. And today we're having a little bit of troubles on the road. Actually, it just pulled off. It's been there about 5 minutes. Now it just pulled off. So I'm not on crack. I'm not all fidgety. I was looking out that window because the equipment got stuck out there in the road.
Well, hey, they got her out and we're good to go, my man.
We sure are.
Hey, first off, before we get into too much, man, tell me about that little boy, old Tucker, man. You're a newfound father. How's that going?
It's been amazing so far. I've had the easy part of it. I've just had to watch Aaron pretty much sacrifice to keep this baby healthy. And, man, it's just incredible watching all that she gives to the baby. But, he's Tucker James Mitchell. He was 7.8 pounds when he was born. He's 7.2 now. Babies typically lose a little bit of weight in their first week. He was 20.5 inches long, and he has big hands. And, even the doctors are saying he has big hands. I think that he's going to be a farm boy.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Must come from that breeding stock, old boy. But,
yes, sir.
I'll tell you, Bryce, I've watched you as a fighter and then getting ready for this discussion and conversation. I don't like to call them interviews. I think more we're just going to talk like a couple of old boys. But, if you just look at like Bryce Mitchell, as you see it on TikTok, you see some of the Theo Vaughn interviews and some of those things, which, by the way, I hate that I don't have you in studio because I'd be crushing some of that venison jerky right now.
Yes, sir.
But as I did more and more research and watch some of your Tucker Carlson interviews and some of those things, man, what I found is a proud American that's just trying to spread the word about just living life the right way, taking care of your family. I love what we're going to get into all this, but I love what you're doing with your chicken farming and raising your beef and that kind of stuff. So we're definitely going to talk a little fighting today, but I want to talk more about this kind of living off the land and what you're doing to kind of set your family up, for success.
Well, what really got me interested in farming, because I grew up a city boy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know nothing about farming, and I basically got a call from God that our nation is collapsing and our nation is in need of small farmers. And I really do think our currency is going to be so devalued that we're going to revert to more like a third world country here within the next 10 years. And, part of it is our fault. Part of it's not. It's hard to say who's to blame. I think some of this is just prophecy of how the world is going to be laid out in the Bible. But one reason that I'm mad at this country that I love so much is just how much rampant pedophiles we've let take in charge of this country. We got our own president. Our sitting president likes to sniff children. He's a pedophile. I know he's a pedophile. We've let these people take charge. God's going to have a wrath on us, and I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm not any more righteous than the next person. I have to pray every day I'm forgiven for all my sins. But I'm just telling you, as a nation, I think we're in for hard times. And I think that a lot of people are going to starve to death if they can't produce their own food. And that's why I started farming, not because I just like to look at vegetables. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I feel like we've gotten so far away from our old ways. You know what I mean? I'm several years senior of you, but I remember, us raising our own cattle, us, having a garden, us having our chickens for our eggs. And then, you make a little money, you get a little fat and sassy, and you kind of forget about those ways of living. And I completely agree with you. And then the other thing is, besides all that, take a look. We have taken and sold out a lot of our key meat sources to the Chinese. Look at Smithfield, the largest pork producer in the world, owned by a Chinese company. Man, I don't care where you sit, dude. I'm not trusting that.
Absolutely. And the good news is that if we just turn back to Jesus Christ, our nation will be so strong overnight. We could once again just be the strong America that we were, but if we keep falling into this degeneracy, it will be a very quick downward spiral. And
Absolutely.
We don't really know what's going to happen, but what I do feel like is I feel sometimes like Noah. He was called to build an ark, and I think I'm called to build a farm because that's all I can do to prepare me and my family. I've thought about everything else that I can do, and all of it's out of my control. The only thing I can control is how much okra I grow, how much corn I grow, that them cows are eating good grass. That's all that I can control, and that's what I'm controlling.
So one thing, 'cause it's so key to your testimony and who you are. When did you find the Lord? Were you raised in church? Is it something, later in life? Where did you find you turning your life over to the Lord?
Well, I was raised in a Christian household, but I really never was Christian. I got baptized probably around 10 years old because all of my friends that I went to church were getting baptized. I didn't want them to think that I was weird, so I wanted to fit in, and I went and got baptized even though I didn't have Jesus in my heart. And then I went down a path of darkness, which I'm going to attribute, well, it's obviously my own fault, obviously, but I had several influences that were very bad in my life. For example, the Joe Rogan podcast. That was probably the worst thing that ever happened to me as a kid because I was convinced from Joe Rogan that we came from monkeys and that we came from a big bang. And Joe Rogan's not a scientist. Joe Rogan doesn't know a goddamn thing about science or where we came from. And it makes me so mad that I fell for that belief system. I was believing that we came from monkeys. I was believing that basically that atheism is the way to life and that these religious people are holding back our country. I was completely brainwashed, and Joe Rogan's just one of the sources that corrupted me. And I don't think Christians should watch that show, by the way. Okay. That Joe Rogan podcast. That's how anti-God that show is. But anyways, a lot of influences led me down a path of darkness, and then my own sin I got addicted to. And I ended up having sex with a witch, and I saw her get possessed, and I saw her, through my relationship with her, I saw her get fully possessed by a demon. And I couldn't get the demon to leave my house. I couldn't get the demon to stop plaguing me and assaulting me. And so I said, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command this evil to leave. And she instantly left. And that's when I knew that Jesus Christ was real, and all I had to do was worship him to be protected.
I mean, if you're going to have a testimony, that's a testimony right there. Oh boy. Holy smokes. I mean, yeah, that kind of power. I mean, how can you not believe in that and allow that to kind of take over? You know what I mean?
And since that day, I've just been really dedicated into sharing my experiences with the Lord. And I know a lot of people are just going to make fun of me. They're going to say, "Oh, Bryce, you've been hitting the head too many times. And, you're seeing stuff or whatever." But I'm telling you, I know what I saw, and I saw the name of Jesus cast out a demon. And that's why I believe in the name of Jesus. And then from that incident, I've started reading the Bible, started reading the scripture. And from then I have a lot better understanding of actually how God works. And I've gotten a lot closer with God. But my first experience with God ever was me being completely desperate, about to have my life destroyed by a demon. And then God coming and helping me out of the hole that I dug myself in. God basically threw me a rope and pulled me out my hole that I dug.
No, I completely understand that. And having that kind of experience, to me, exactly tells me why your conviction's so strong. I think it's amazing. I also think, going back to something you said earlier, like, live in this world as one nation under God. I don't feel like we do it anymore. And to me, that's on this country. And that's just terrible. And I think that's why we see some of the shit that we see these days.
Absolutely, brother. And, it's, a lot of this is out of our control. It's all prophetic because we know that the mark of the beast comes soon and all of this stuff comes soon. But still, the reason I preach is because I care about people, and I know that there's people that are drowning in their own sin just like I was. And so if I can just sit here and tell them a little bit about what happened to me, they will be able to connect with that better than a Christian who casts judgment upon them, who tells them, oh, you're going to hell, this or that. I'm not here to tell people that they're going to hell. I'm here to tell them that they don't have to go to hell if they don't want to.
Yep.
And because I was going straight to hell until I called upon Jesus. And so I'm just here to spread a message of hope to people who feel like there is no God.
And I love it, man. And that's one of those where I feel like sometimes people turn their ears off to Christianity is something you brought up, judgment, which that's not your style. Yours is just, hey, I'm going to share my testimonial with you. I'm going to share what it's done for me. And hey, if you want to go on this journey with me, you're more than welcome. And I think that's the right way to approach religion. I feel like anytime you try to push anything on people, they're naturally resistant. All you can do is share, and then hope through that sharing that you're able to impact their life and what gives them the most opportunity to prosper.
Absolutely. And since I began really studying God without my atheist mindset just fogging every bit of information that came in contact with me, after I started reading the scripture as a Christian, I've seen so many things, and we actually don't have to cast out a demon to know that God is real. There's a lot of signs in the Bible that if you just read that Bible, there's no way that it could have predicted things that it predicted. Prophecies have unfolded time and time again throughout the Bible, and it is the most reliable historical document that there ever was.
Yes.
And I didn't know all these things about the Bible, but for example, okay, Acts 2:20 and 2:21. When I read Acts 2:21 for the first time, it just jumped off the page to me because it just did. And Acts was wrote by the apostles basically after Jesus died, and then he went back up into heaven. He died, then he came back to earth, and then he ascended back into heaven. Well, after that, they start writing the book called Acts. The apostles do, and a lot of it was wrote by Peter. But Acts 2:20 and 2:21, it basically says in 2:20, the moon shall turn to blood and the sun shall turn to darkness before that great day of the Lord. Now, it's talking about the rapture. And then it goes on to say, for it shall come to pass, whosoever calls upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And so verses like that, when I read that out of Acts, which was straight out of Peter's mouth, after he saw Jesus die, come back, and ascend to heaven, the eyewitness Peter said, whosoever calls upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And so I teach a message of hope for everybody. And but look at the verse before that. That's what interests me. That's what made me think of this. It says, the sun shall turn to darkness and the moon shall turn to blood. Now you have NASA coming out, which NASA is a satanic government organization. And I know a lot of people don't understand how or why, but take my word for it. I've done my research. NASA are liars. They're demons from hell. Okay. And you can't trust anything that they're saying. But NASA now is saying that the moon is rusting. And so what they're attempting to do is they're attempting to take a prophecy that they know will unfold before the day of the Lord. They know that moon will turn to blood and that sun will turn to darkness. Even the demons believe the Bible. You got to understand, the demons know that moon's going to turn to red, it's going to turn to blood, and the sun's going to turn to darkness. So what they're attempting to do, they're attempting to use these fake scientists. They're actors, but they act like scientists, and they're going to say the moon is rusting. That's why it's turning red. And y'all shouldn't believe a word the Bible says. The Bible didn't predict this. This is rust. Now I'm going to tell you, the moon don't have oxygen. The moon don't have water. You got to have moisture and oxygen to rust. Okay? You got to have iron. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
It's none of that shit exists on the moon. I actually believe that the moon is actually just a light. It's not a physical object, but I don't know that, but I do believe that they're just great lights in the sky. But anyways, there's a lot of things that are in the Bible that are hidden knowledge that people don't know because this information's been suppressed and the Bible now just gets made fun of. Well, let me give you one more example.
Please.
In Revelations, John wrote Revelations. Now, there's a guy named John. He wrote Revelations 2,000 years ago. Okay? 2,000 years ago, this guy said at the end of time, before Armageddon, which is where Jesus comes back and kills all the evil people on the earth. Before Armageddon, the Euphrates River will run dry. Now, the Euphrates River, it's popular for making up the Mesopotamia region, which has been the breadbasket for civilization as far back as humans go. The earliest civilizations we have record of are in the Mesopotamia. So for a guy 2,000 years ago to say this river is going to run dry when the Antichrist comes, he wouldn't have been able to know that. And I'm telling you right now, the Euphrates River has run dry. Now, I just have to say things like this because when I talk about that Bible having validity and having proof, I can tell you a million places where it does. And it proves itself over, it just a million times over. It just proves itself correct.
No, I grew up in a family where we studied the Bible. I totally understand where you're coming from. And I do believe that there's so many stories in there that look at it how you want to. Like you said, I mean, 2,000 years ago, that's pretty prophetic to be able to have that kind of vision and know that's what lays ahead of us. You know, a question I've got for you, Bryce, is kind of when you look back at where you're at in life and you still got plenty more to go, are you glad that being a UFC fighter has allowed you more of a platform to be able to share your testimony and your feelings with people? Like, do you feel like that's something you've been graced with and you feel a bit of a responsibility to use it?
I think that the only reason God has blessed my UFC career is because he knew that I would share his name fearlessly. I would tell anybody and everybody that he is the Son of God. There is no other way into heaven except through Jesus Christ, who can cast out any demon. And God knew that I would fearlessly fight for him even before I was a Christian. And that's the only reason that God has allowed me to do what I love to do for a living.
Yep.
God doesn't really care so much about Bryce Mitchell, the fighter. God likes it when Bryce Mitchell gets up on that microphone and says the name of Jesus.
Yep.
And
holds that Bible up. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
That's what God's interested in. But God knows I love to fight. God knows that I love to win fights because it makes me feel like a winner.
Yeah.
And, but I don't think that that's my purpose here on this earth is to fight people. No.
I think it's just a vehicle. You know what I mean? I think it's just a way for you to spread not only your love of God, but also, you know, what you're doing as far as the farming and those type of things too. And letting people know, you know, hey, you need to think about this. You need to prepare for this. So I love it. While we're talking about, you know, and it kind of ties into that, you know, your last fight was the Josh Emmett fight. And, you know, first off, you know, as you know, one of the nastiest knockouts we've ever seen, but you were safe. You know what I mean? You ended up on your feet. I don't look at that as just dumb luck. And the second part is when you talk about that fight and you talked about taking that knockout, it was, and I think it's something people don't think about enough. You know, you make the decision to get in this game for numerous reasons, but to me, you actually get it. You said, you know, this is an opportunity like I've never had before to take care of my family. So if that means fighting on short notice, if that means, you know, killing myself for 10 days to try to get ready for this, I'm going to do it. And I will do it again if given the opportunity. Man, that was powerful to me. It really, really was.
Brother, not only will I do it, next time I do it, I'm going to win.
Yep.
And I wasn't impaired in that fight because of the short notice. I was impaired to that fight because of the fight that I had 3 months earlier where the dude knocked my eye blind for a week. I couldn't see for a damn week out of my eye. And then it put me out of training for 3 months. So for that Emmett fight, not only was it short notice, I didn't get to train to fight the son of a bitch. So I didn't have good chances on paper, but I still believed in myself and I still love my family so much that I don't care, that I'll fight for that type of money. And they paid me more than double that night.
Yep.
And so what am I going to do? Am I going to say no and just sit here broke? No. And I wouldn't do it again right now because I don't need the money right now.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any money at that point and I needed the money. And I took the fight and I thought that I was going to win. I didn't take the fight just for the money, but I thought I was going to win and get paid. And obviously I didn't win, but at least I still got paid. If you lose, you get paid half. So I still got paid half, which is more than what I would have got paid for winning a fight if I'd have turned that fight down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So think about it. It's like, well, shit, I could lose one fight and have it over with in 5 days, or I could train hard as hell and have to fight 3 times to make that type of money. what am I going to do? I'm going to take the fight in 5 days. And
I completely understand it, and I'm pretty good buddies with Chad Mendez, which I know you know of Chad at least.
He took the McGregor fight on short notice.
Yep, and that's one thing he told me. He said, Chad, he said, man, he's like, I took it on short notice. He's like, but it changed my career. You know what I mean? And he also said, that's why, kind of different from your situation. He's like, even during hunting season, even when I was doing all that, he goes, I always made sure, man, if it comes within 10 days, I can get as close to as coming out of camp as possible. You know what I mean? As you can in 10, week to 10 days. But there's so many opportunities that come on that short notice, as long as you keep yourself in somewhat decent shape,
Absolutely. And that was really my problem, is because of my eye injury. I hadn't been doing nothing because I was scared my eye was going to get touched. And I wasn't even doing running or nothing. I was just doing construction because I'm building a house, but the house is built. But yeah, I was doing construction all day, every day, but the construction did keep me strong, and moving, but I didn't have, I just, I'll do better next time. I know that. And so I'm excited to go in there healthy and put on the absolute best performance I can. I'm not deterred by that. I'm actually really pissed off, and I'm really, really motivated to do better next time.
Well, one thing, and hey, I've got no doubt in you, man. I can't wait to see that next fight. And I know that's one of the things I kind of want to talk about is I love the fact, I don't know if it was you or your team or a joint decision. I love that kind of self-imposed 6-month concussion protocol. That really tells me that you're thinking about yourself, your longevity, and screw your fight career. You're worried about you being there for your wife, your son, and all the other people that need to hear your message, man. And I know it's easy to get caught up in the money, in the fighting, but to me, man, that speaks a lot about who you are. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of coaches have instructed me that, and even like Pacquiao, when he got knocked out, he took about a year off. So I think it's proper. Cody Garbrandt, who was Cody Garbrandt was the greatest bantamweight fighter that there was until he got beat by that TJ Dillashaw on EPO. Yep. But yeah, TJ Dillashaw beat Cody Garbrandt because he was on EPO, and Garbrandt even dropped him in the first round, and EPO boy gets back up and doesn't get tired and comes on to win the fight. But Garbrandt was really hurt badly in those TJ Dillashaw fights because he fought a guy who was cheating the whole time.
Now, do you think there should be stiffer sanctions for something like that? Like this guy's career got derailed because Dillashaw decided to use EPO. Do you feel like that should be a lifetime ban or something to set his career back as much as he set back his opponents?
I think a group of 12 people ought to kick in his fucking door and put a gun in his face and tell him to shut the fuck up and remain silent, put him in cuffs and throw his punk ass into jail. Prison. Yeah. I think your ass ought to do prison. You cheating son of a bitch, you lowlife. You did EPO to beat another man because you're too scared to fight him fair. I think you ought to go to prisons and have your fucking assets repossessed. That's what I think ought to happen. Every fucking penny he made in both those fights and every fight after, I think repossesses fucking assets. But obviously that's never going to happen. But that's the kind of anger I have for these cheaters and these lowlifes.
Well, and
they're scared. They're scared. That's the problem is they're scared. They're scared men. And so they have to find a way to cheat.
And for me too, like I compare that to, going back to that Josh Emmett fight. He, not only with you, but with other, because that guy does throw some deadly bombs. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not only with you, but with other guys that he's hit and dropped like that. Like he shows restraint. And to me, like that's brotherhood. That is, yes, we're in there going to war with each other, but I understand I make my living and put food on the table doing this, and you make your living and put food on the table doing this. And there's a mutual respect there that, yes, while we're going to go to blows, I want to whip your ass. I also know I want you to leave as intact as you can so you can continue providing. That to me is like a code when you decide to be a combat fighter that you need to live by.
I completely agree. I have no malice towards any of these guys. And I just so much love Josh Emmett because he didn't hit me extra after that. I'm telling you, he would have hurt me so bad if he'd have hit me afterwards because I was already knocked smooth out,
Yep.
I don't have any malice for any of these guys. And I had a good point to bring up off of that. I forgot exactly what it was, but if it pops back up in my head, I'll tell you.
Please do.
But I think Josh Emmett hit me so hard I forgot what I was about to say.
Would you say that's the nastiest blow you've gotten hit with in your career, Bryce?
Yeah, but it really wasn't as bad as everybody thinks. I just got knocked out and I got back up and I didn't have any pain or anything. It was honestly the easiest fight I've ever had in my life. I can't even remember the damn fight. I woke up in an ambulance. I mean, there was no suffering or anything. I wish I could redo it. I wish I could do better, but I do think I'll get my chance. I do think that I'll win so many fights that I'll be justified to call out for a rematch.
Sure.
And I won't be denied.
And I honestly think he'd be the first guy to say, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think he's just that kind of dude. Like I'll give him this opportunity to vindicate himself. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's fair on all parts. So, speaking of,
absolutely.
When in your mind, when are you going to maybe start training again? Any idea?
Well, I've already started training again, so I'm just staying healthy. I'm putting on some size. Because if you didn't notice, Emmett had 20 pounds on me, so.
But you didn't have a proper chance to bulk up either, like you usually would, right?
Right. I usually bulk up, so I didn't get to bulk up. But this fight, I'm bulking extra big, and it's going to be bad for the next person that has to fight me.
And one thing I love too, man, is old boy as it is, bro. I love the way you train, man. I love seeing you strap the gloves on and take it to a hay bale, taking that big ass oak branch and throwing a couple cinder blocks on it and getting your work in, man. Like, to me, that just screams of this, like, you don't need all this fancy shit, man. You can get into shape doing it with what you got around you.
Absolutely. And I've been blessed to have everything that I need plus more. And I really do think that I'm going to get that belt one day. But even if I don't, I don't care so much about that. I think that the truth is going to come to light and people are going to see how great of a fighter I am. And that's going to reflect my passion and love for the sport.
Yeah. And how does it feel, Bryce, too? Like, you're a huge crowd favorite. You know what I mean? Like people like you, people gravitate towards you. I mean, that's got to kind of be a beautiful cherry on top of this, career so far.
And you'll never hear nobody admit that because they're scared that people like me. They're scared. They don't want people to know that motherfuckers love me. Motherfuckers fly across the nation to watch me fight, and they'll never tell you that because they're scared that I will realize that. But I'm telling you, I know that people love me. I've spent hours and hours after fights signing, taking pictures, talking to these people that come out to watch me, and they'll tell me, hey, I flew from Alaska to watch you fight in Vegas. I took a week off of work. These people love me.
That fills your heart, doesn't it, brother?
It does, brother. I've been blessed, and I love them too. And I think that the reason that people end up loving me is because I love them.
Yep. Absolutely. It's a two-way street. They love and respect what you do and the way you entertain us. And you love and respect that they're willing to spend their hard-earned money on watching you entertain us. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
exactly. Everybody's happy.
Yeah. No. I totally agree. One question I had for you is, I know one of the reasons you also, like kind of training out there on the farm and kind of doing your thing, is a little bit of secrecy and kind of, not divulging that battle plan, in a gym or anywhere like that. When it could the guys that are in your corner during a fight, do they come out to the farm? Do you maybe spend the last 2 weeks in their gym? Like what does that look like?
Yes, sir. My coaches, they'll come out to the farm and train in the garage with me. I also got a coach that has a really big gym in Little Rock, like the biggest gym in Little Rock. I go down to his gym, and he flies people from all over the world to train at his gym. A lot of Brazilians end up at his gym, but I've trained with world champions at that gym in Little Rock. And then when the world champions come over here to Arkansas, I invite them up to the farm and we train in the garage. So yes, sir, we have all the people meeting up there in the lab is what we call it, the laboratory.
Yeah, I love that, man. I just had my first kind of personal experience in a small gym, and it was I went out to Denver to cook for Justin Gaethje, and kind of got to meet his team at Onyx, and so, his coach was so cool. Like, it seems like, to me, like he's one of those guys that kind of has that same feeling as you of like, I don't want to be in a big gym. I want to be in this small gym around family, folks that I trust, and to me, it was kind of cool just to cook, to go in and watch those guys train on Friday and then go to Justin's and cook for him at his house and just watch what a family it truly is. You know what I mean? Like, to me, what you guys have with your coaches, you put so much trust and faith in them that they end up being a father figure or based on their age, an older brother. To me, that's really special.
Absolutely. And I think all combat really does that. And I know people aren't dying, like real battles, real wars, but you get that feeling sometimes that you might die. You're fighting people that are so scary that they could kill you if there was no ref or if they hit you wrong or whatever. So like that feeling of combat, that sense of urgency really brings people together, honestly, better than anything that I've ever seen. And, that everything that God created has a purpose, and maybe the purpose of battles is just to bring people together, to have the camaraderie. Because think about this, like World War II, that was the biggest battle the world's ever seen. And I tell you, when we got back, our generation's lost now. When that generation got back, this country was strong. Yep. We were unified. Battle does that to people. When a nation fights another nation, the winner usually has more camaraderie, more of a purpose, more of God amongst them.
No, I completely agree. And while, and I would say in our lifetime, and while it wasn't a win at all, I would say probably, and just terrible that it had to be this way, but I don't know that we've ever been stronger as a country than after 9/11. You know what I mean? As far as just a country, brother looking out for brothers, sister looking out for sister. You know what I mean? That it was almost like we felt vulnerable, so we had to come together. Why the fuck does it take something like that for us to be unified? I have no clue.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, brother. And I remember where I was when I found out about those buildings going down. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Where were you?
And to think, I was in my living room. My mom, she, I don't know if she was fully dressed or had a towel. I can't remember. But I remember her running in front of the TV and saying, "What? What?" and started screaming, and she started crying. I remember where we were. And, yeah, it's crazy. But you looking back at that, I really do believe that the whole thing was an inside job, and our own government brought that upon us with rigged explosives and incendiaries. I think they melted the beams in that damn building and brought it down, and they blamed Muslims for it, and then we go over and we kill over 1 million Muslims. But that's just Satan getting what he wanted out of that whole incident. 9/11 was an act of Satan. And I don't think that Muslims with box cutters did it. I think our government infiltrated with the CIA and the help of sitting presidents and sitting congressmen. I think they committed the greatest act of treason that's ever been done on American soil. And they still have got away with it. And a lot of them are going to die getting away with it on this earth. But what I believe happened on 9/11, brother, is not that 19 Muslims used box cutters to destroy those buildings. I think that there was incendiaries, explosive, military-grade incendiaries, military-grade explosives, and that those buildings were brought down with such precision and speed that it couldn't be done by anything other than trained professionals operating in unison from within.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I haven't studied it enough to comment on it, but I have seen enough data that when you look at some of those temperatures and what temperatures you have to be at for steel to react in that way, and how much heat can be given off by jet fuel, it's definitely something you have to consider. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just straight facts. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah, I'm 100%. I know that building was not brought down by jet fuel and by planes. It was designed to withstand being hit by a plane. It was one of the greatest buildings that we've ever built with modern technology. I mean, the only building greater than that World Trade Centers is damn pyramids. And I don't know what built that, but it wasn't early humans. I tell you that right now, that people riding around donkeys didn't build the pyramids. I tell you that right now. Something extravagant built those pyramids that we don't quite know what built them. But I'll tell you what, as far as modern buildings go, the World Trade Centers was the best. I mean, I watched this video on how they were built, and it's just so much rebar and concrete in there. The building's just solid rebar and concrete.
Yeah.
You know, a plane hitting on one side wouldn't do nothing to it. Now, what really tells the sign that it was an inside job is World Trade Center 7. When World Trade Center 7, it didn't even get hit by anything like a plane. It had a little bit of debris hit it, but it fell down at free fall speed for over 10 stories. So basically, the vertical support beams had no support for over 10 floors. And so basically, there is enough evidence to know that was not an act of two planes hitting the building. There were inside bombs planted on those buildings, and the incineraries actually melted the beams too. You know, they used thermate. Now, the proof that there is thermate being used is this simple. I mean, there's absolute 100% proof they use thermate. And there's thermate and thermite. Okay. I don't know enough about the two of them, but I know that when thermate and thermite burn, they produce their own oxygen. They will melt steel easily. That's what they're designed to do. And so, did you know that when the World Trade Centers 1 and 2 was the towers, the Twin Towers was getting cleaned up, there was so much molten steel underneath the buildings that they had to call off the demolition, call off the cleanup.
Oh, wow. Because it was still that hot.
Oh, that's a fact. That's a 100% fact. So think about this. This is 2 weeks later. They're pulling up metal with cranes, putting it in the back of dump trucks, taking it to the barges, and taking it straight to China and melting it down. All the metal from the World Trade Centers, all of it, every fucking bit of it, got shipped to China and melted down because you can test that metal for thermate residue. And so they took all that fucking metal. They went against federal law, which says that has to be saved for investigation. When there's something that big of a catastrophe, there needs to be proper investigation of the debris. They melted the fucking evidence down in China. Okay. But what I'm telling you is they were trying so hard to get that metal out of there as quick as they could that they ran into the pockets of melted thermate and thermite that they used to burn the fucking buildings down. They had to send the workers home because there was molten steel everywhere. And so I'm telling you, there's so much molten steel that there's conclusive evidence that there was definitely an incendiary used. And it's an inside job. Now, who did it? Okay, well, who made the most fucking money? Halliburton.
Yeah.
Halliburton. Who did it was who made all the fucking money, man. Now, when you talk about Halliburton, you're talking about Dick Cheney was a CEO of Halliburton. Now he's the vice president. So you're telling me our vice president was CEO of a military contractor that got paid trillions of dollars after a building suspiciously blew up? Come on, man. Come on, man. I'll tell you what happened. Dick Cheney and his buddies got together and blew that motherfucker up, killed thousands of people. By the way, they say 3,000 people died. You kiss my ass with that. 10,000 plus people was in them buildings. 10,000 plus people died. They killed tens of thousands of people. And then they lied about the body count. They lied about every fucking thing that there ever was, brother. The whole world is just a lie. But through my independent research, I found out that tens of thousands of people were killed. They did use incendiaries. Actually, the Pentagon was most likely hit with a missile. They actually just shot a missile at the Pentagon. That's why they've destroyed every bit of footage that there ever was of the Pentagon getting hit, except that shitty one outside the Pentagon that goes in two frames a second. Yeah. Bullshit. Okay. They literally confiscated everybody's film of that missile hitting that Pentagon. They shot the Pentagon with the missile in broad daylight. And how do I know that they shot the Pentagon with the missile? Well, there wasn't no fucking titanium left over from the plane. Those planes have 4 fucking engines.
Yeah.
Their wingspan's more than twice as big as the hole that was left.
Yeah.
How does the wingspan half as big as the fucking hole that's left in the building? Because a plane didn't hit the fucking building. A fucking missile hit it. And it blew up the building, and then they blamed it on a plane. That's the world that we live in. And Satan's responsible for all of this. And there's not a lot we can do to stop it, but at least I'm not scared to tell people what really happened. I will tell my son what happened on 9/11.
No, and I think, and that's, there's a lot of information there that, I don't feel like this isn't, an emotional stance. It's an educated, fact-based stance.
Right. And I used to talk to my mom about this when I was 16 when I realized that they blew up the buildings, that they didn't go down from a plane. I was 16. I was in high school. I told my mom, I said, how come you like George Bush and Dick Cheney so much? I think they're evil, Mom. I think they blew them buildings up. And my mom said, they would never do that. Son, you're crazy. She said, son, you're crazy. What have you been reading that makes you think that our president would kill our own people like that? I said, Mom, I'm telling you right now, I know that those planes didn't bring that building down. Now, she thought I was crazy. About 10 years later, she came up to me one day. She called me late at night, and she said, Bryce, you were right about what you said. You were right. I mean, I didn't ever bring it up again. 10 years later, she called me, and she said, Bryce, you're right. That son of a bitch, George Bush and Dick Cheney blew that building up. And my mama knows it. My whole family's going to know it. I'm going to know it. All they have to do to get me to not think that is they have to kill me, because I know it. I'm going to teach my family that. I'm going to teach my friends that. I'm going to teach strangers that, because I know what the truth is. And they're just going to have to kill me to get me to stop talking about it, because I'm telling you right now, I know what happened with them buildings. And it's sad, but that's the world that we lived in, that people will kill for money.
Yeah, and it's a damn shame. And one thing I feel like too, is that I feel like we're born with this kind of blind faith of the government. Like, they always have our best interest in mind. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just that, it's kind of a blind faith, and I feel like we see it more today than we ever have in our lifetimes.
Absolutely. And, we should have a very, very healthy disdain and distrust for the government. Now, I do believe in a government. I don't really so much like anarchy. I like capitalism. I like free markets. But how that this is not a capitalist nation, because everybody blames capitalism for their problems. The number one tenet of capitalism, I'll tell you right now what it is. And I'll tell you that's proof that we are not a capitalist nation. We're more leaning towards communist, how our government operates. Now, capitalism and communism, there's no such thing as a true extreme. There's not one nation that's been purely capitalist with no communist elements. It's more like on a scale. On a scale of 1 to 10, I think of America as about a 6.5 or a 7 on the scale of communism. We're probably about a 2 on the scale of capitalism. I mean, we don't have as much capitalism as people actually think. But let me tell you how I know this. The number one tenet of capitalism is private ownership of private property. And we don't fucking have that anywhere in this country. Anywhere. Nobody can own their own property anymore. We are not a capitalist nation. We'd be lucky to be a 1 out of 10 on capitalist, on the scale of capitalism. And I'll tell you why, because the number one fucking tenet of capitalism is private ownership of private property. We can't own property anymore. We have to rent our property from the government through property taxes. And so when the founding fathers set this country up, there was no such thing as a property tax. That was only something the Brits had to pay. They came to this country to get away from property taxes. Now look what our federal government has implemented on us after about 300 years. We've sunken down into this system now where you can't even own property. You have to pay a tax to own property, which that means you're not owning it, you're renting it.
Yeah.
So we don't even have free markets. We don't have private ownership of private property. We're not a capitalist nation, sadly.
I completely understand where you're coming from. And now that you're talking about property, I know you've had a ton of construction projects going on, the house, the barn. I want to talk a little bit about this octagon conversion to a chicken coop. That's as an old boy that's built many a chicken coop and raised many a chicken. I want to hear kind of how you turn this octagon into a coop. But how's all the, I know while you were kind of recovering after the fight, you were spending a lot of time on the house and the barn and the coop. How's all that been going?
So this is pretty much the best year of my life. It's like everything in my life is just being put together, all the pieces that I've had scattered, and God is making this a year of restoration for me. I have a new barn that I built to park the tractors in. I have a house that I've just built. It's 1,600 square foot. It's on the other half of a shop. It's a shop house is what it is. For the past 5 years, I've been using it as a shop, but I cut it in half, and now I'm going to live in the other half of that shop. It's going to be like a shop house. Now, the chicken coop, that is honestly my favorite project of all, because what it is like 10 years ago, I started training at this gym called Westside, that gym we were talking about in Little Rock.
Yes, sir.
And we trained in this metal cage, and the thing is horrific, to be honest with you. Every time I went to train in that metal cage and spar somebody, I just got a bad feeling. I mean, there was not proper padding on there. One day I almost broke my back. I thought I did break my back. I couldn't move for 3 minutes. I've been hit in that octagon harder than I've ever been hit in my life. I got tackled into one of the metal poles in the back of my head, hit the pole, and the whole cage was ringing. They said the whole cage wrong. But anyways, the octagon is not fit to train in. It's really not. But I trained in it because that's all we had at the gym.
Sure.
One day, coach wanted to move locations because their location that they were at on Cantrell, they had to pay for the air conditioning, the heat, all the modifications to the building they had to pay for, but there was no ownership of the property.
Sure.
And they were paying repairs plus their lease. And they weren't happy with the building. So they moved down to Izzard Street. This is Westside MMA. And when Westside moved from Cantrell to Izzard, they had that 3-ton metal MMA cage in the middle of the gym, and they have to get that shit out of there or they get fined, right?
Yeah.
So who do they call?
The country boy.
They call a country boy. They said, "Hey, Bryce, you want to buy this cage?" I said, "How much?" They said, $500. I said, "I'll be there tomorrow."
I'll get that in scrap, worst case, right?
Right. And what was bad is my gooseneck trailer, it was sitting in a mud hole. So I had to go to it was sitting at my buddy's where I haul hay. So I had to go. It was the longest day of my life, brother. I had to go to my buddy's in Bald Knob where I haul hay, get that gooseneck out of the mud. And I just got 2-wheel drive on my 7.3.
Yep.
So I'm up, dude, I had to get plywood and boards and all this shit. And we made a chain of plywood and boards to get that trailer out. Then the trek starts to Little Rock. So I go to Little Rock and we spend about 5 hours moving this cage, disassembling it, taking it all, strapping it down, all that shit. And we finally get all this 3 tons of metal strapped down on the trailer. And it's me and AJ, another fighter. He's good. He's my cousin, but, me and AJ get everything strapped down. We head out and we get on 67 heading north back home, and a tire blows out.
Oh, shit. With a full load, of course, right?
with the full load, and I had to limp it home. And in my 7.3, I've only got one CD. It's the CD that I got the truck with. It's Johnny Cash. And we sat there and listened to the same Johnny Cash album about a dozen times. AJ was so pissed at me when we got back. He said, "Man, this was a long fucking day, man." He said, "You better be glad I love you."
Dang, that is true love right there, brother. That sure is. Oh, man, I love that story, Bryce. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I think I owe AJ some eggs.
I think so. I think it's time for him to get a little something out of that coop.
Yes, sir.
So, dude, one thing that you mentioned real early in the conversation, and I am a lover of, and I've heard you've had some bumper crops of okra.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, okra's amazing. And I saw you talking to some old boy at ESPN. Looks like he probably never had some okra in his life on a little interview beginning of this year. And, man, the way you talked about it's the way my mama always has made it. A little bit of cornmeal, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Get you a little bit of lard or tallow or oil down in that pan, and just a nice pan fry on some good fresh okra. Man, if that's wrong, I don't want to be right, brother.
I mean, these people that say they don't like okra, I feel bad
Oh,
for
they
them.
missing
I mean,
out, son. More for me and you.
I pity their souls, because here's the thing: is they really think they don't like okra. They think they don't like it. They ain't had it cooked right. My mama grew up frying okra. I'm telling you, if they had some of my mama's fried okra, they would like it. And they just don't know what they're missing out on when it's perfectly crunchy and just that perfect amount of breading on it. Because usually when you go to a restaurant, they got too much breading on it. They got too much breading. And so everybody tries that restaurant okra and says, oh, I don't like okra. Buddy, you ain't had my mama's okra. That's your problem.
I'm the same way, man. My mom has this. She only does a couple things in it, man. This cast iron skillet must be 60 years old, Bryce. And, man, when she gets that out, I know it's fucking okra time, and I get excited. Still to this day, man, just brings me back to childhood. You know what I mean? And I totally agree with you, man. That fried okra the right way. You know, I always talk about it like I do my barbecue. Like the okra or the meat should be the star of the dish. And everything else just kind of elevates it a little bit. The seasoning, the oil, the frying, like you still want that okra to come through, but you just dressing it up a little bit, putting a little taste on it.
Absolutely. And I think that okra, because of modern farming, which really is done with heavy, dangerous chemicals like glyphosate.
Man, for example, don't even get us started on Monsanto and all the shit and GMO bullshit they've done. Jesus Christ.
Right, because people undervalue okra because they've never really grown vegetables and fruits in a healthy, safe way themselves. If they understood how valuable okra is because of how easy it is to grow, how easy it is to harvest, how much it produces.
High yield,
daily yield. We're talking daily yields. You don't get that in the crop world without pesticides. I'm telling you, no pesticides.
I was going to ask you, what's kind of your fertilizing regimen and how are you taking care of your farm? Since I mean, obviously I knew you weren't going to be a pesticide guy, but how do you treat?
Well, the number one thing I recommend if you're talking about getting into some, just like basic stuff is cow manure. And the reason I like cow manure is because it's so easy to harvest.
Sure.
You go out there, you get a wheelbarrow of it in 10 minutes. You take it over to the garden, you mix it up with dead leaves or old hay.
A little composting.
Don't mix it up with, exactly. You compost it up. And it's just the way to go, you know. Of course, the compost has to have the right carbon and nitrogen levels. Sure. So as long as you're mixing it, if you put that straight manure onto your stuff, it's going to kill it. It's got to be worked in with carbon, and it's got to be worked into soil, spread out right and timed right. But anyways, my number one insecticide would be permethrin. Now, from my research, which I could always be wrong in anything I say, you should always double check yourself. But from my research, permethrin is a good choice of insecticide, and it's actually a necessity here on the farm for me because of how well it works for a fly repellent. And like here's what I think about permethrin is it's so safe that I get it on my skin and I don't immediately wash it off. So if it is something deadly, then I'm going to be dead any day now, because I'm telling you. I get permethrin on my, like if there's downwind and I'm standing downwind, when I'm spraying the cows, I get permethrin on me, right on my face. I spray my cows with it. I spray me with it. I mix in Dawn dish soap and I use it as lightly as I can. But when the flies are swarming, I have to put it on thick and it works great. If I didn't have permethrin, I would do something like apple cider vinegar and some Dawn dish soap. Yep. But luckily, I have permethrin, so that's just what I stick to because I know it works, and I do believe that it's safe.
You know, no, and I completely agree with that, and I love it. And you know, one of the things too, I want to talk a little bit about your beef. How many head are you up to now? And you know, are they mostly living a hay and grain diet? Kind of, you know, how are you raising your cattle?
Yes, sir. It's mostly hay and grain right now because the grass ain't really took back up. I do small amounts of rotational grazing, but really they get the best grass in the summertime, and that's about to start. So those cows are going to fatten up. I've had 2 newborns within the last 3 weeks. So all the cows are very healthy right now. The hay I put out with the tractor, the pellets, the grains I give them, I just put it out in buckets, about 2 buckets a day. That's when I spray them, when I put those pellets out. I got 12 head right now of cattle.
Are you a name the cattle or don't name the cattle kind of guy?
Oh, I name them all.
I love it.
I name them all. Yeah. We had a bull calf just 3 weeks ago. I named him Ozzy. What's special about Ozzy? I named him Ozzy after an MMA coach that I'm really fond of. But what's special about Ozzy is that he's got Black Angus genetics in him, and I don't have a Black Angus.
I was going to ask you what genetics you were running. If it was Hereford, Angus, that was where I was going next. So I'm glad you hit on that.
I got red heifer, Beefmaster. I think I do have one Black Angus. She has a white dot on her side. I don't know if she's older. I don't know if that's some type of impurity, but she appears to be Black Angus. And then I got one, I don't know what she is, but she's a beautiful brown one, but she's the one who had Ozzy. We call her Coco. But Coco, she's brown. She just had Ozzy. But what's funny about Ozzy is Ozzy comes out a stud, and he's black, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my bull, Twister, who, by the way, Twister and me are just great friends. I had to kind of fight him a little bit today because he tried to run through the gate. I had to yell at him, and I hate yelling at him because he's so nice. He's so friendly.
Yeah.
But he was going to give me hell if I couldn't get that tractor through the gate. And so I had to run Twister off. But anyways, Twister's a red bull. I mean, he's solid red. He's purebred limousine.
Yeah.
And so when Coco has a baby and it comes out black, it'd be kind of like if my wife had a baby and the baby came out black, I'd say, hey,
what's going on here?
No, well, what the hell's going on here? And so, but in this case, it was awesome because my neighbor's bull, his name is George. He's Black Angus. Well, the Black Angus bull, George's bull, he broke the fence one day and got over on Coco. And now I got some of those genetics for free.
There you go. Hey, kind of like a kid sneaking in and out of the window. You know, when you're 15, 16 years old, that old Black Angus just decided he needed to come over and get a taste of old Coco.
Yeah, he did. I think he liked to taste the Coco. And the good thing is that here's how it works. And God was really blessing me with all of this because obviously I don't want inbred cows. And Twister, if he breeds with Coco and they produce a female, I'm not going to let Twister get on his own daughter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
so I have to sell them or I have to separate them. In this case, I now have another bull. And my herd's going to double or triple in the course of 2 or 3 years because now I've got another bull that I'm comfortable that he has. I mean, you just look at this calf, man. He's a stud. He's a stud. He's going to be something. But I'm going to keep him and have 2 lines of genetics.
Hey, that's smart, especially right now with a small herd. I'm sure you want to grow it. Having 2 lines of genetics, man, that is a godsend. You know.
It's really funny how that happens, but I know that's a blessing. And I even called my neighbor. I called Jimmy because George leases off of Jimmy. I called Jimmy and I said, because I was afraid George was going to be mad about the whole thing. And, you know, but there's nothing to be mad about, really. It just happens. But instead of calling George to bother him with it, I called Jimmy. I said, hey, Jimmy, I said, this bull calf of mine come out black. And I said, you seen Twister. He's red. I said, what do you think? You think that's George's bull? He said, oh yeah. He said, that's that Black Angus got a hold of Coco.
That's crazy, man. What are some of the other crops? I know we talked about okra. What's some of the other things you've got on the, you're growing there?
I grow garlic, sweet taters, tomatoes. And my number one specialty is actually watermelons. I enjoy growing watermelons. I am world class at growing watermelons, and I really love watermelons. I could actually make a living off of just farming watermelons if I wanted to, but I really don't want to. I kind of want to mix up everything, and once I have enough watermelons to feed me and the animals, I'm happy. But if I had to do a crop to sell and I was actually hurting for money and I needed to farm for the money, I'd sell watermelons. I can produce that many watermelons and I'm that good at it. I think that the number one staple crop from what I've done, which is my limited experience of about 4 years, 5 years of growing things, the number one thing that I think America's missing out on, that the world is missing out on, is sweet potatoes. When I started growing sweet potatoes, I couldn't believe how naturally repellent they were to all insects. I mean, I barely had to treat my sweet potatoes to keep insects off. They produce such high yields.
Isn't garlic also great for that too?
Oh, nothing messes with garlic.
Yeah.
You don't have to, brother. You just plant that garlic and pull the weeds around it.
Let it go.
And water it. And you don't even have to water it that much. It's not, garlic is not needy at all. That's why I like to grow it. But the real reason I like to grow it is because it has the best antimicrobial function of anything that I know of. If you're sick, you take that garlic, it will kill a staph infection from the inside out. And I did that one time. I got my thumb, it got cut and it had pus coming out of it, but I was on a squirrel hunt. Well, it was a turkey hunt, but it ended up there wasn't no turkey food, so it's squirrel hunt. But I was on a turkey hunt, and I didn't want to go to the doctor because we was out in the middle of nowhere. For 3 days, I ate garlic, and I drank cranberry juice, too. And I healed a staph infection with garlic.
No shit. That's amazing. Now you talked about a squirrel hunt. Now I'll tell you this. I grew up on about 30 acres, and you get out there and, you're a young kid, got your little pellet gun. And I remember, man, we had stacked up some squirrels and a couple of robins. And my grandpa came out there and he said, what you boys plan on doing with those? I said, I just go throw them in the burn pit. And he's like, oh, no. We kill shit around here. We go eat it. And I didn't have a whole lot of good squirrel recipes, old boy. And I'll tell you what, there's a certain art to skinning a squirrel.
Very hard to do.
Because here's the deal. There's a whole lot of fur. There ain't a whole lot of meat, old boy. Like to really skin one right, it takes a little time, but don't worry, Grandpa, make sure we had it all figured out. And man, all we kind of did was pan fry them. And if I sat here and told you it was good, I'd be bold-faced lying to you, and I can't do that, Bryce. So if I ever get in that situation again, like you got a good squirrel recipe for me.
Man, it is, like you said, when you pan fry it, it's hard to make it as good as something like chicken because that meat's so tough. But what I've heard from pan frying it is boil it first, and then boil it first, get it real soft, and then batter it and pan fry it. And I think that would be that you'll have good luck with that. But because it's so tough, after I pan fried it without boiling the first couple of times, I started putting it in stews.
Yeah.
I've even made squirrel jerky before. I'm not kidding you.
Not. Hey, you're halfway home. It's so damn dry. You ain't got to dry it out as long.
Exactly.
Oh man, that is too good. I just got a couple more things for you, brother. This hour has just flown by. You got a couple more minutes?
Absolutely.
So in my research about you, one thing I heard a little passion in your voice about was maybe one day having a restaurant. That's still something that in the back of your mind you think would be cool, little diner there in town, just to be able to share your recipes and some of your fruits of your labor, if you will.
I think it's going to happen, brother. I just feel it happening. I feel everything culminating to the point to where that's going to be beyond a possibility. I think it's going to be inevitable because here at this farm, I mean, we're going to be producing everything here soon. But right now, what we've really had take off is our steak and our eggs. And but eventually I'm going to get a milk cow. We're going to have milk, butter, and cheese. And we're going to have so much extra that it's time to start up a restaurant and pass on some of these amazing recipes with real food that I value. Because the reason that people, I think, don't value real food is because they can't get enough of it and it's too expensive. And I'm telling you, the way that I would run my restaurant, I would have food just as cheap as McDonald's for 10 times the quality because Absolutely. It would be all, I would not grow 90% of my own ingredients. But when I get to that point, I'm going to start the restaurant. And I have a buddy who's Serbian, and I went over to Serbia, and that's just what people do over there. They have restaurants, they grow their own food, and that's just a normal way of life over there. But if fast food is so common here that you get looked at like you're crazy for wanting to have a farm and turn that farm into a restaurant, when I really think that that's common practice in most parts of the world. And I'm not quite ready for that yet, but I know that it's coming.
I love it. You see the vision. You don't want to rush it when the time's right. It'll happen. I think that's amazing. In kind of, researching about that, I also heard you got an aunt that has a pretty banging chocolate pie recipe.
Oh, brother, we got the best chocolate pie, chocolate pecan pie, strawberry pie. Ooh. Now, Now, Erin, she is actually the best cook I've ever met in my life. That's my wife.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, she'd make a sausage gravy and biscuits with the homemade biscuits. I mean, I don't even know how she makes biscuits. She got fingernails this long. I don't know how you make biscuits with them fingernails. But I'm telling you, the girl sit in there and make biscuits from scratch, and then she'll take that deer meat and that pork and mix it together and make a gravy. I don't know how she makes her white gravy out of flour and butter. I don't even know, but I'm just telling you, it's the best biscuits and gravy I've ever had in my life. And I've had people come over here to eat on a day where we're all working, and they'll tell you this is the best biscuits and gravy I ever had in my life.
Man, and I'll tell you what, you just hit a nerve there. I love a good biscuits and gravy. So I know you've been kind of DMing back and forth with Jason from Trollco. And, he's Canadian and his family was down here in February. And they had made a comment about, they were staying at a hotel not far from my house. And they made a comment about, man, we saw this biscuits and gravy in the hotel. And I said, oh, no. Your first damn experience with biscuits and gravy ain't gonna be at the damn Best Western, old boy. Let y'all come over here tomorrow morning. We'll do a little brunch. I'll do some omelets and we'll do some biscuits and gravy. And I'll tell you what, man, I think I converted them Canadians. About 2 weeks later, after he got home, he said, man, you got to send me that recipe. I'm gonna cook them biscuits and gravy for the family on Sunday. And I loved it, man. And it's fun being able to share those recipes and those traditions and those things that we've learned with others. I think that's why I love being in the food business and barbecuing so much. Is it's kind of like you get to give a little bit of yourself with each meal. And I'm sure you feel that same way when you give a dozen eggs to one of your buddies, or, hey man, I got more okra than I know what to do with. Come get you a sack full. You know what I mean? Like there's something fun about being able to share those fruits of your labor with the people you love.
Absolutely. It's in our DNA. We like doing it. Food is like that language that we all speak, and it's like I can give a Chinese person a steak right off my farm, and I can tell their happiness with one bite, or their dislike. I can tell in one bite. I can tell in one bite what they're thinking, and that I don't have to speak the same language as them. We share that. All humans do, that taste, the love of taste of food. And that's what really drives me for wanting to do the restaurant, is that it's just something that I enjoy doing, feeding people. And like when I go get a deer, or if I go butcher a cow, it always tastes better when I get it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know where it came from, too, man. You know what it's been fed. You know how long, it raised out, all those things. I tell people all the time when it gets to, and I know you know this well because you're in the chicken business, but you look back 20 years ago. You compare the weights of when chickens were going to slaughter and the gestation period, and you look at it now. Chickens are going to slaughter a third quicker and a third heavier. How does that happen? GMOs, and they're pushing feed on them until they damn near croak. I always tell people, when you look at chicken in the grocery store, and it's got that yellow skin, that is all the grain that the chicken could not process. When, you're not supposed to have cleaned 5.5 pound chickens. You know what I mean? You should see a full chicken sitting at around 2 3/4, 3 1/4, and have that really nice white skin. That's what good chicken looks like, that was raised ethically. You know what I mean?
And I love the word you use, ethically. And that's what I hate about this farming now. It's not ethical.
It's corporate farming, man. It's farming for money. They're trying to create. They're trying to generate as much tonnage for the cheapest price possible.
And I promise you on everything I have that I will not ever farm for money. I farm because I like watermelons with black seeds in them. I like beef that's not fed shit.
Yep.
That's not injected with vaccines. I farm because I like good food the way that God made it. And I don't want these, like you said, corporate farmers. They're just printing dollar bills.
Yep.
They don't care how many chickens they shove into one pen. They don't care. They don't care that every time they go to check their for eggs, there's a couple dead chickens in their huge chicken house with 10,000 chickens. They don't care.
Oh,
I
man.
care about the chickens. I name each one of my cows. I care about the food I produce. I would never spray glyphosate. I would never spray Roundup on my corn
Yeah.
and then sell it to my neighbor. I think that's a sin.
Yeah.
It's against everything that I believe.
Well, and that's the thing. You've worked too hard to get that farm where it's at right now. You know, and the thing is, you know how to make it prosper without having to take any of those shortcuts. We're just doing it the right way, brother. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that transcends everything in life. Fighting, being a mechanic, being a farmer, being a father, being a mother. It's not cutting corners and doing things the right way. And because guess what? There's no punishment for these guys that are spraying Roundup on their corn. In fact, they're rewarded. They're rewarded for spraying Roundup on their corn. There's nothing stopping them. The system encourages it but to take the extra time to do it the right way and fight this evil. I think God is going to bless people who do that, and God's going to protect those people because he knows their heart is pure. And I'm telling you, I'm not farming for money. I'm farming because I want to see my son and my wife eat and smile.
Yeah. And it's always been called tending your crops, not spraying your crops. You know what I mean? You get out there, you use your hands, you get your hands dirty. You know what I mean? And make sure that they're taken care of that way instead of taking the easy way out and strapping a sprayer on the back of that tractor and just waffing over everything. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And people say, well, what are we going to do? We wouldn't have all this food if it wasn't for that. No, that's
bullshit.
Not true. I'll tell you. Yeah, bullshit. I'll tell you.
We would find a way.
There's multiple solutions, and the most obvious solution that I can possibly think of that comes to my head instantly, because I know it's the best solution, is to get more of our population farming.
Yep.
More of our population need to be involved in making food.
Yep.
We have less than 2% of our population are farmers or produce any type of food at all. If we could just so much as get half the people to milk a cow, half the people to put out hay bales, if we could just get half the people in this country interested in growing food, I'll tell you right now, food would be cheaper and it would be better. Here's another thing that comes to mind. We should make it illegal to spray Roundup on corn. If you spray something on corn that you can't drink a cup of, you probably shouldn't be spraying it. I'll
tell you what, I think you just hit on the litmus test right there, Bryce. If you wouldn't drink 8 ounces of it, we shouldn't be putting it on our food product. You know what I mean? That's actually an easy way to put it.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to ingest it, and don't give me this bullshit that, oh man, between the rain and the way we process it afterwards, it's pesticide free. Bullshit. Don't buy it one bit.
I don't buy it either. It's all a bunch of nonsense, but they're using these evil excuses to justify their laziness and their greediness, and all they care about is farming for money. I don't farm for money.
It's interesting. The guys over at Trollco, they live by the terms dirty hands, clean money, support blue collar. And to me, like what we're talking about right now, like not enough people farming, not enough people welding, not enough people plumbing. You know what I mean? That is something that we've got to address in this country. One, it's a tad bit of laziness. I get sick when I see 14, 15-year-old kids right now saying, oh, what do you want to do with your life? I want to be an influencer. What the fuck are you going to influence? You know what I mean? Like why don't you learn something and then, something that you can do, a skill that is needed, and then share that with others? That's true influence. Like what you're doing right now with farming and raising chickens and raising beef and us here talking about it. That's influencing. We're trying to get more people to do it, but you have to have something you're a subject matter expert in before you can influence a damn thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. We need to make that stuff cool again. We need to make welders cool again.
Yeah, hell yeah. Because, dude, I will tell you this, man. When I was a kid, there was nothing more captivating than sitting my chubby little 11-year-old ass on that bench and watching my grandpa lay a bead. You know what I mean? And watching his workmanship and what he held himself to as acceptable. I feel like those kind of memories had a lot to do with where I expect my finished product to be and what I do and my work ethic. Because if it meant enough to him for it to be perfect, it should mean enough to me for it to be perfect.
That's right, brother. And you know, that hard work and that not accepting a poor quality product, just those type of qualities always lead to better, friendlier people. All my friends, I don't have lazy friends. I don't. If they're lazy, if they come over to my house and do a bad job and want my money for it, they're not my friend. And all these people that are I'm friends with, they have that quality in them. They have that hard work, that attention to detail, and I really think those go hand in hand with making good people.
Well, I feel like at the end of the day, as we get older, you know, that's just the people we gravitate to, right? The people that we can respect, that have that same work ethic, that same desire, that same drive, that same belief, you know?
Yep. And I think that welders is one of the coolest thing ever.
I completely agree.
Plumbers, electricians. Oh my gosh, man. These people are the real rocket scientists. Cause like the rocket scientists at NASA, everybody says, "Oh, I'm not a rocket scientist." Rocket scientists don't do a fucking thing for me and you.
Yeah, no.
They don't do a fucking thing.
Nope.
They don't do nothing but steal our taxes and lie to us about, oh, my rocket went to Mars. My rocket went to the moon. You didn't do shit.
Hey,
and you're all a bunch of liars and a bunch of thieves. The real rocket scientists are the plumbers, the electricians, the welders. Those people are geniuses.
Because I'm sure me and you, I know I'm a septic tank guy. I'm pretty sure where you live, you're a septic tank guy. That thing starts thing starts gurgling. A rocket scientist ain't gonna do shit for me. I need me a damn plumber, old boy.
Brother, I'll get that backhoe out. I'll get that backhoe out and I'll fix it. I'm not calling up NASA.
Yeah. Hey, all right. I got two more things for you. Then I'm gonna cut you loose. I promise. But I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna rise you up again if you don't mind at some point in the future.
Come on.
First off, do you ever do you drink it all? Do you enjoy yourself a whiskey every now and then, or not so much?
No, sir, I can't drink at all. I got too much brain damage.
Okay.
It really makes me jacked up. Like the next morning after I drink, I just feel
the hangover from hell.
Absolutely.
Well, if you have not does Erin ever like to have herself a nice bourbon?
Oh yeah, she likes to drink.
Okay, then we're gonna have to send her one of these bottles of 5.9 whiskey. I'll tell you what, wouldn't be talking about it if I didn't believe in it, bud. It is some of the smoothest brown water she will ever enjoy. So let her know we got a little present coming for her, since she was kind of our technical lady today, getting you set up for this. We got to give her.
She is every day.
We got to give her a little something. But I'm a little bit of a tractor guy too, man. So in researching and making this conversation as good as I thought it could be, man, I spotted something I got a soft place in my heart for, man. That's an old Ford tractor. I see that blue tractor and I'm like, man, that's nice. Tell me a little bit about that tractor, how old she is. Does it mean something to you, some kind of sentimental value? And what other tractors do you got?
I got a lot of Ford tractors. Ford tractors, my favorite tractors of all. But yeah, I like them because of the gear selection, the lock differential pedal, the reliability of the old school transmissions, the horsepower, the fuel mileage. But I'd say the tractor is that's really the workhorse over here is a Ford 6610.
Okay.
It's probably about 82 horsepower, something like that. But 4-wheel drive, it just stays in 4-wheel drive. I stay out in the swamp. Everybody calls me a hillbilly. I say, no, I'm a swamp billy.
I'm a swamp donkey.
Yes, sir. And, that Ford, it does most of the work just because of the conditions out here. The 4-wheel drive 6610 does. But what I really like about those old school Fords, one of my favorite features on them is that lock differential pedal. And I'm telling you, it saved me a lot of headaches. I'll be out there hauling a couple hay bales through thick mud, or usually it's when I'm pulling a trailer through thick mud. I'll get stuck. Even in 4-wheel drive, I'll get stuck. Well, buddy, I'll stomp on that lock differential pedal and I'll pull that sumbitch out of there. And I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference with that lock differential pedal. I can't say enough good about it.
It's got that ass when you need that ass.
That's right, brother. And you got the high and low gear selection.
Yep.
You don't get that on some of these modern tractors, and you certainly don't get the reliability, the easily obtained parts,
easy to work on.
Easy to work
you gotta
on.
hook some damn computer up to it. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and the longevity. I take if it was an apocalypse, I'd take old motor oil, mix it with fucking diesel, and run my tractor off of old motor oil, cut down with diesel. You don't get that in these modern tractors. They're sensitive. They're hard to work on. The parts are fucking Chinese and fucking communist, and it's just they don't make them like they used to. I'm afraid they never will. But that brings me to one of my other passions. Say if I got rich off of a restaurant and I'm sitting there, I have a restaurant and a farm. I swear on my life, brother. I swear, if I had a farm and a restaurant and everything else, it was just going smooth to entertain myself, I would make trucks and I would make tractors in this country. And I'm telling you, if somebody like me, like a redneck, started making trucks or tractors in this country, I'm telling you, we'd have tractors made in this country again. We'd have tractors that work and you can afford in this country. And the electronics are so god awful on all these tractors nowadays. They make it unaffordable for the common man, which really helps the big guys, the Chinese farmers. It really helps them.
Well, and all they're building these new tractors for is, once again, the corporate farmer. The guy,
it's the corporate farmer.
The 20, 30,000 acre guy. Nobody builds shit for the 20, 30 acre guy. You know what I mean? Not good shit.
You damn right. And that's why Mitchell Made is going to have a tractor. I'm telling you, there's going to be a Mitchell Made tractor and a Mitchell Made truck. And I'll give you a little secret.
All right.
Here's a little bit of my secret, okay? But what's going to make my truck revolutionary? I'm just going to take the 7.3 engine. I'm not going to mess with the 7.3.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm just going to take an already good existing motor and I'm going to put it in a reliable frame with lock differential pedals, 4-wheel drive. And I'm going to put a PTO shaft in the back of the damn truck. You can hook up an implement to your damn pickup truck. Nobody's done that yet.
Nope. Bro, that right there would be the ultimate farm truck, right?
Buddy, you be bush hogging in your damn truck. Think about that. And somebody ain't done it yet. But this redneck right here, I ain't got no money to do that. But I'm just telling you, if I was a millionaire, I'd be a billionaire. Because I'm telling you right now, with a couple million, I could make a couple billion tomorrow.
Well, you still got plenty of fight career left, buddy. You may end up making $1 million or $2 million doing that. Hey, don't. Hey, we may see Mitchell Made before you know it. I know you're one to never count yourself out. And Bryce, I love that vision. I love that you're not complacent with what you've got right now, what you're growing. Like, hey, buddy, if all this takes off, I got other plans. I absolutely love that, man. It's infectious.
Absolutely, brother. And I want to do this because I know there's people out there like me that just hate what's going on in the world. They hate that the modern man can't afford a tractor, and they hate that the modern pickup trucks suck. They don't have gear selection. They're not manuals.
Yeah.
You can't go high and low in them. They suck. They don't have lock differential pedals. Their transmissions break down at 150,000 miles an hour. I got a Ford 7391 IDI, 670,000 fucking miles.
670.
You won't get that. You won't get that these days. And that's the freedom that we have been robbed of. That used to be possible. Not only is that possible, we could even make them better now. We can make trucks that go 2 million miles. Yeah. It's just that people don't want to do that these days. They make money in selling you overpriced trucks that break down quickly.
I got nothing to add to that, buddy. That's the gospel right there. You hit the nail on the head. I gotta say. And one last thing, because everybody's gonna get my shit if I don't bring this up. Even though, like I said, I wanted to talk to you more about this kind of stuff than I did fighting. But any timeline of when you think we may see you back in the octagon, maybe back half of the year?
I want to fight before Trump gets reelected.
Okay.
Because I think that is a monumental time for our nation, and I believe our nation is done if Trump doesn't get elected. I think that I want to fight before Trump gets elected to let Trump know on the microphone that I love him and that I've not given up on this nation yet. I want to fight before that election because I want to give people hope.
Man, I love it. Spoken like a true champion, brother. Bryce, is there anything else you want to hit on the way out of here, buddy?
Man, I love y'all, and thank you so much for having me on, Mr. Chad. You just holler at me anytime, brother. I really enjoyed it.
Hey, I will do it for sure, Bryce. Hey, keep doing what you're doing, brother. I love your willing to be open and share your feelings with no regard for who says what, who judges what. You are you. If you want to be part of that team, come on, brother. If not, ain't gonna judge you, but move on. I love that about you. Don't ever lose that spirit. I don't think you ever will.
Thank you so much, brother. God bless, and please holler at me.
Hey, give that little old boy Tucker a hug for me, man. I think it's amazing, and congratulations to you and Aaron again. Couldn't be happier for y'all, and I promise you, Bryce, this won't be the last time. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you too, brother. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
See you, man. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's been another kick-ass episode of the Old Boy Podcast. Stay tuned for more.